Alright guys, let's get into the front end of the Medium application. I've added a new slide to the project right here. So if you go to projects.100xdevs.com and open the blogging website track, the last slide I've added, which has a bunch of screenshots of what to build for if you're generally interested. There is a new product by Vercel called v0.dev that lets you create websites, sort of gives you the code for it as well. I've just created the screenshots from it. I did not copy the code. We could just copy the code. It gives you very nice code that just, works. It does require ShadCN, which is why I'm not doing it. I also want to build the whole thing from scratch. So given these were the designs we had to build, how would I build them? Again, today you might copy over a bunch of these things from v0. Even if these designs are present in Figma, a lot of CSS would be present that you can just copy it over. We don't have access to any of that, so we're just going to use the screenshot and try to copy. The sign up page / sign in page both will look pretty similar. The actual blog page, now this has a few extra things. For example, the author has not just the name but also the sort of description about themselves. Also, we don't yet have a route that gives us the details of the blog and the details of the author, so we'll have to change our route a little bit. A create blog page that lets you put in a title and a description, and then lastly a blogs page that gives you a list of all the blogs. Here also you'll see there's a date, which is the date that the thing was published on, which is something we don't have. So the backend will change a bit, the front end will get added. Initially the goal is to just build these components as fancy as possible, and then once we have that, we'll try to slowly and incrementally connect it to the backend. Cool, that's all the context. Let's get right into it. Alright, the first thing that we have to do is initialize the front end project in our very big repository. So if you remember from the last class, we have a big repository which has the backend code and the common module that will be shared by both the backend and the front end. We now need to introduce the front end folder right here. The way to do that is npm create vite@latest, since we're using Vite as our bootstrapping framework. I'm going to name the project front end. I'm going to add React as the library, TypeScript as the language. Go to front end, run npm install, and then do the standard things. Go to source/app.css and make it empty. Go to source/index.css and make it empty, and introduce Tailwind to it. What was the way to introduce Tailwind? You can go to the official docs of Tailwind and find them. You can also find them here. Followed by changing the content in tailwind.config.js. So Tailwind knows where all of our Tailwind classes will be present. Index.html, you don't really need this for this one. And specifically source/anything.js.ts.jsx.tsx. This configuration file is how Tailwind knows where you're putting your Tailwind classes, so that eventually it replaces whatever classes you have put in any one of these TypeScript files or JavaScript files. It's able to put that here in index.js. For example, if you use whatever text-black class in any of the files that exist here, it will understand this text-black class, which means background color black, I need to bring locally to the code base. That's why you have to do this step. We've discussed this before when we were in the Tailwind video. Alrighty, added this, and then we're good to go. The other thing you have to do is, as I said, front end is going to use the commons package, which means I need to do an npm install of this commons package. What was the name of our package here? The one that we created in the last video. It's 100xdevs/medium common. And that's it. If you run npm run dev, you'll see a very simple application without any CSS running locally. Let me also make app.tsx completely empty, and then we'll go from there. There we go. We have an empty React project. Let's start to build our screens. The first screen we have to build is the login screen. You can also add routing first, doesn't matter. That's what the next step in the docs is. So if you go here to the next step, it will ask you to add React router DOM. We can do that. You can also just first create the components, eventually add React router DOM. Doesn't matter. Let me be a little lazy and copy this. Feel free to write it yourself as well. It's just the standard routing using React router DOM that we've done many times in the past. It also says I'm going to create a top level folder called source/pages, inside which I'll add a signup.tsx, a signin.tsx, and a blog.tsx. In each one of these, let me by default export a function, not by default, you get the idea. Export a const which returns an empty div, blog sign in, sign up. And now if I run this locally, npm run dev, and open this in my browser, I should hopefully see something on the /signup route, /signin route, and /blog/:id route. We probably need to add more routes here, one for publishing the blog, but we'll add that as we implement the front end for it. Let's see if routing is working. /signup gives me blog, which is fine because inside sign up I've written blog. Let me change that to sign up, and then sign in gives me sign in, and then /blog/1 gives me blog. All right, seems like we're pretty close. I mean, we're not even we're 1% there. We've set up routing. Now comes the most difficult bit, the bit that most backend developers dread a lot, which is actually writing the front end. So let's try to build the components one by one. The first thing we have to do is build this sign up component. Before we get there, let's just build this left side as a separate component and right side as a separate component. So I'm going to call this sign up inner. I'm going to call this the label component, the quote component, because this is sort of a quote by someone. So let me first create the quote component. I would create a top level folder called components, inside which I will start to write my code. So quote.tsx. What does this thing need to export? It needs to export a function that returns a div which has a background color of, this looks like light gray. So let's search for background color Tailwind. This looks right. So BG state 200 and needs to have the complete height of the window, needs to take the complete height of the window. So I'm going to go to height over here and select h dash full, which means no, not even full, h dash screen, which means take the complete height of the window. If you remember from CSS, I don't know if I discussed this in CSS, but height 100 VH means the complete width, the complete height of the current window. H dash screen is the class for it in Tailwind. So if I paste h dash screen here and write, high quote, high from quote component, and let me import this in signup.tsx. Let me see what the sign up page looks like right now. There you go. It took up the complete height and it has a quote over here. I need to move this quote to the middle. So let me do that next. For that, what would I do? I would make it a flex, justify center, and full height. So again, we can actually just do this above. You don't even need this. The parent component will be a flex, justify center, but the direction will be the vertical direction. So let me go here, search for flex direction needs to be column. So flex dash col. And I think that's it. Let's see if that centers my quote vertically. Seems to do it. And now, what is the other thing that you see in the screenshot? It's in the middle of the screen. It has a maximum width of 50% or something like that. So you can do a max width. Again, go here, max. So you search for width, max width, and we can be like max dash w dash sm, which means 384 pixels of max width, maybe a little bit more. So max WMD, if I put that here, and also horizontally put this quote in the center, or maybe do a text align text dash center. I think that should be good enough. If I go back here, yeah, I see this centered. I don't see this guy centered though. Let's see. Let me do a bg dash red dash 200. So I need the parent to take the complete width and the child to be centered, or basically something like this. Class name equal to flex, justify center. There we go. It's in the center of the width and it has my quote. It needs to be a little bit bigger. So text size, you might be like, Akira, this was here, how are you doing it on the whole screen? Fairly simple. If I go to sign up, eventually I'll do something like this, right? Div class name equal to grid and grid dash calls dash 2, which means this grid has 2 columns, and then the first one will be my sign up component and the second one will be my quote component. That's how this will take 50% of the width, this will take 50% of the width. And now if I go here, you'll see on the right side I have my quote. Let me now make it a little bit bigger. Let me remove the red background from it. Let me increase the size of the text. And also, font size. Text dash 2XL or 3XL sounds good to me. And also the font weight, which means how bold it is, needs to be extremely bold. Just like Rakhi Sawant. That was a bad joke. Okay. There we go. Let's see. Looks pretty good. Looks very close to this. Maybe became a little too bold. Let me copy the quote. The customer service I received was exceptional. Alrighty. The customer support I received was exceptional. The support team went above and beyond to address my concerns. The support team went above and beyond to address my concerns. And then Julius Winfield, so another div below it. This one doesn't need to be centrally aligned. Julius Winfield, and then change the class name to be, slightly less bold. So font dash semi bold, and then the font size should probably be just XL. That sounds good. Let's see how this looks. They're coming side to side because flex justify center needs to have, it's going to be hard. Yeah, this should be fine. Probably needs to have slightly bigger width. So let's make this LG. There we go. Is this centrally aligned? This isn't centrally aligned. So let me remove the text dash center. Yeah, that looks good. And then Julius Winfield, CEO Acme Corp. CEO Acme Corp. Now this guy needs to have very less, what do you call it, font weight, like incredibly less, maybe like SM. Then the color is also even less than SM maybe. The color is also like very light gray, which means BG. How do you add text color in? Text slate 400 is good. Right, let's see. It looks pretty close. Maybe a little less. Oh, see daisy. Weight WEIGST. Font dash light sounds good to me. Alright, let's see how it looks. It looks pretty good. There's some margin here on the left. I don't know if you were able to figure it out yourself, but let me see what I'm missing. Oh, they're centrally aligned. Oh, yeah. So what needs to happen is, yeah, okay, let's do the same thing. Max width LG needs to happen. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Max with LG text here. This sounds good. Let's do this. Text 3XL font semi bold will come here, and then the rest of them will come below it. There we go. I think that should fix it. Only thing is why they're centrally aligned. Justify center. Max, switch this thing. Text dash left. Text align. Text dash left sounded right. Let's see why this is why is the text in the center of the screen? Because it has text dash center. There you go. Why does it have text dot center? Oh, I don't know. You can remove that. And there we go. Alright, the right side looks pretty decent. Probably some space between this and this and this. So let me add like a top margin of 2, maybe 4. That looks pretty good. Right side is sorted. I've done this part. I need to do the first part now, which is the actual sign up page. We also need to make sure that when the screen is really small, this part goes away. So let's first do that. Let's make it responsive. Let's make sure when the screen becomes really small, we remove the right side. We only have the single responsive page. So let me go here, back to signin.tsx, maybe signup.tsx. And what do I have to do? I have to hide quote. So I have to be like div class name equal to visibility visible md colon. So visible md colon invisible, which basically means if you go above the medium breakpoint is when it should become invisible, is when it should become visible, and it should be invisible by default. That sounds good to me. Let's see if that works. When it's big, it is visible. When it goes small, it becomes invisible. Maybe it should be at the large breakpoint. So this is our page, and then when it becomes small is when we'll just have our sign up page. When it becomes big, we'll have two sides to it. All right, great. Now let's build the actual what should I call this? I should call this auth component. This guy again needs to be centrally aligned throughout this, all of this needs to be in the center of the page. So let me first make the height of this guy, which I can just copy from here. Basically this needs to be a copy pasta. The background needs to be white, but everything else needs to be the same. And then here, sign up component. Let's see, refresh. Let me import auth here. Refresh, and I see sign up component at the center, which is great. Now let me create the actual card, which is it needs to have create an account. Already have an account login, so I probably need to take the type as an input, which is what? Which is either sign up or sign in. And here, create an account is very straightforward. Create an account. Only it needs to have text dash. Let's copy some things from this quote component. Don't need this. Text slash XL, which means slightly big text. Maybe let's make it bold. Don't need text dash left, and margin top 4, not really needed, so we can remove that as well. Create an account, and I see a create an account. Now this is a little smaller than this, so let me make it a little bigger. Text dash 2XL, 3XL, maybe a little bit more, extra bold. Yeah, there you go. Looks pretty close to the text over here. Now let me centrally align everything. It's giving me justify center. Create an account. There you go. Have it at the center of my screen. and then we need to add the quote below it, which is already have an account login. So div already have an account login, which needs to be a link. 1 second. Someone's calling me. Back in a second. Alright, we're back. Create an account. Looks something like this. Already have an account login. Needs to change the color. So let me change the color of the text. How do you do that? That's text dash slate slash 400. That looks right. And login needs to be a link. So what can we do? Link to equal to slash sign in, and link comes from React router DOM if I'm not wrong. Import link from router DOM. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. That looks right. Alright, there you go. Already have an account login, probably needs to have some padding here. So PL-2, which means some padding on the left. Looks decent. Also needs to be underlined, I think. Let's see. Yeah, login needs to be underlined. So tailwind underline. I think it's as simple as underline, but yeah, there you go. There you go. Already have an account login. Next up, we need to add username, email, password, 3 sets of components. I'd rather, have each one of these in a separate component, which means I'll create a new input box component, which takes a label as an input and a placeholder as an input, and put all of them there. You can also put them here. Really depends on you. I'm going to put this out in a separate component, call it labeled input, which needs to return a div inside which we first have a label. So let's take that as an input. Label, placeholder, and what's the third thing? Label, placeholder, on change. These are the 3 things we'll take as input. I'll explain a little bit why we need on change. Label, placeholder, on change, and value. These might be the 4 things. You don't need value. Debatable. This is fine enough. Alright. Input box. We need a cleaner input box. A slightly padded input box. Nice borders. You can search for input box tailwind. It will give you a very nice CSS input field that's slightly better styled than what we have. So yeah, this looks pretty good. In fact, this is exactly what we need, a label and an input box. So I can actually just copy this over, paste it here. It has all the right styles to, build something similar to what we want, and the label I'll take as an input, followed by make this class name, placeholder I will take as an input, and on change I'll just pass in here. I also need to give the types to this specific labeled input, so I can either define them directly here, or I can have a interface labeled input type, which is, what does it expect as inputs? It expects a label, which is a string, a placeholder, which is a string, and an on change, which is something like this. And E actually has a very nice type. You shouldn't put an any here. You should figure out the actual type of what this guy emits. It's not too difficult to do. Let's see. On change handler event. There you go. Change handler. Change event handler. Change event handler. There you go. On change equal to on change. Says change not assignable to type. E and event are incompatible. HTML input. Still gives me an error. The types of E and event are incompatible. Change event of HTML input is not assignable to. Okay, it needs to be change event. And there we go. This is the right type of the on change method. I am basically allowing the end user to write 3 simple label inputs with title equal to username or whatever name, placeholder equal to Harkirat Singh, and an on change which will return them back an event that they can set the state variable on. So I'm going to also introduce 3 state variables: const username, set username, name actually. I can do this, or I can actually do something more fancy. I can do this: const post inputs equal to use state, name which is an empty string, email or whatever, username which is an empty string, and password which is also an empty string. And here is where for the very first time I will introduce the commons library that we had. If you remember, this guy exported the sign in input, the create blog input, the update blog input, and the sign up input. And this is exactly what we need, right? We need the username, password, and name. This sort of a type is what the type of this post inputs needs to be: name, username, and input. So if you want to enforce type on any state variable, you can do it like this. I'm going to import it from, there you go, here. And as you can see, no type errors. But if I don't give it a username, it gives me a type error. That's how you will figure out what the backend needs, because you have the right types from the backend. The backend is telling you, okay, by sign up input, this is what I want on the backend, and you set the state variable to that specific type, or you tell useState, okay, this is the type of the state variable, so that whenever the user is either initializing it, or in the future when we update these post inputs, TypeScript will tell you if you're sending the wrong thing. If I put email here by mistake because I forgot, then TypeScript will start to complain. That's the benefit of getting the types from the backend on the front end. If you want to read about a little more type safety on both front end and backend, you should read about this project called TRPC. We also had to have a video from cohort 1 on this. It's not used as much, but if you want extremely strict types on both front end and backend, TRPC is a library that lets you do it. Alright, I have the post inputs. What will happen when I change the name field? So label, it needs to set post inputs sorry about that. Set post inputs as, now here I'm doing something new. Bear with me for a second, I will explain this. Name is e.target.value. So here, what I'm saying is here post inputs has my name, my username, and password. And anytime the user puts something on this input box, let me save this and show this a little bit better in the browser. Let me save this and go to the browser, refresh. You'll see there's an input box here. It isn't styled correctly right now. We'll do that very soon. But as I type inside this, I want my post input state variable to update. I want the name over there to get updated. Is that happening right now? Let's see. Let me log post inputs right here. And if I refresh, you will see initially name is empty, username is empty, password is empty. And as I add things here, they get populated in the name field. Why? Because if you look at it, here I say set post inputs, and I don't set a new value as such. Dot. I mean, you could do that as well. It'll just work if you do this. Post inputs, comma name Harkirat, or sorry, e dot. This works as well. This syntax will also work in this case. But ideally, to avoid race conditions, to avoid a bunch of other things, you probably should use the other syntax, which is giving a function as an input. Either way doesn't matter. In this specific case, this will just work, and you can call set post inputs with dot post inputs, which basically means give me all the existing keys from here and then override a name. This syntax we've discussed a few times. Let me quickly open my console and explain it. If I ever have an object, const old object equal to name Harkirat, age 21. Okay, this is a simple object that I have. And if I create const new object equal to dot old object. Okay, nothing too complicated. I say dot old object inside the curly braces. This basically means spread out the existing object. What does spreading out mean here? Basically means it will take all the keys and values and put them here. That is what the dot old object will do. It will take both the keys from here and the values and put them here. So this and this are the same thing. So let's see if that is the case. If I log new object, I see name Harkirat, age 21. So that makes sense. If you can either do const new object equal to old object, or if you want to go fancy, you can be like const new object equal to curly braces open, curly braces closed, and inside dot old object. Cool. That is another way to copy over an old object into a new object. The third thing you can do is const new object 3 equal to dot old object, which means get me all the keys of the old object and override age with 25, let's say. So now if I log new object 3, you'll see age got overridden, and I can add multiple keys here. I can be like, age is 25, and then, address is something new, so on and so forth. The key is this dot old object operator, which first gets me all the keys from the original object and spreads them out. And then you can override age, address, and other keys that you have. Cool. That is what the spread operator lets you do inside an object. And what do I do here? Here I say by set post inputs to all the existing keys. So basically this will replace name with the existing name, and then user whatever email or username with whatever the original username was, password with whatever the existing password was, and then update the name. So this name will get overridden by this new name. That's what this dot post inputs comma name e.target value does. It overrides the name and lets you retain the existing username and password. Cool. So that's why I've used this syntax. If this syntax seems weird, you can totally have 3 input fields here separately: name, and then password, and then username. You could have 3 different state variables and just update that respective state variable. But ideally, if you want to use types, if you want TypeScript to tell you at various points if you're doing something wrong, then it's a good idea to just merge them together. All right, cool. That's the first labeled input. What's the second labeled input? It's as simple as username, and let the placeholder be something like this. And then the third one is password. The type of which should be password, so that you type is another thing we need to pass in as a prop. Type, which will be a string, and this type password will ensure that you see stars in the password field. Let's see how to do that. I can just forward this type here. Type equal to type or text. So sorry about that, my recording died. What I was saying was type I am passing in as a new input to labeled input type, this specific inputs to this labeled component, and it's an optional thing. Whoever wants to set the type on the final input can pass it in. If you don't want it to pass a specific type, if you want it to be text by default, then you don't have to pass anything in. What is this type, Harkirat? What happens when you set a type on an input field? Well, if you set the type as password, then as you can see, the third one has stars, but since I didn't pass anything here, it does not have stars. And whenever you have a password, you probably want to have stars in there, which is why I've passed or introduced type as an input to this interface that this labeled component takes as input. The last one over here, pass that in to the labeled input component. These guys did not, so they defaulted to simple text. Alright, I have 3 inputs. The only problem is they're appearing side by side. So let me fix that really quickly. How can you fix that? Let this be a separate div, and then we're good to go. Now let's do that. Center. Flex justify center. There we go. Create an account and 3 input fields. The only problem is number 1, the name here is not black, so let me change that. The placeholder needs to be text dash black, and then these need to be white. So the way to do that is just remove all the dark inputs from here, because my Mac is on default mode, which is why you see all the dark inputs. There you go. Remove these. You're good to go. If you want to understand all of these classes, this one, sets the background color as gray. This one adds a very light border to it, so on and so forth. So if you want, you can read through all the class names here and what they do. And I'm not going through it, but like the hopefully straightforward. Like add some padding, width should be full. If you focus on it, it should get a blue border. If I go over this, as you can see, I get the blue border right here, so on and so forth. Let me also remove the stringified JSON that I had here, and there you go. We have. This was the expected input. This is what we have. What is missing? Hakikat, this was slightly longer. This seems very short. Okay, we can change that. The width needs to change. Label input. It says W dash full here. W dash. Basically taking as much width as the parent has if I do a W dash full, but this guy has even bigger width than the parent. So what we can do is we can add some padding on the parent. I think that's a decent idea. The parent being this guy right here. So class name equal to px-10, which means add some horizontal padding here and here on both the sides. And now as you can see, this became longer. And some more spacing, so let's add some spacing between these two guys, and let's make this text a little bit bolder. So text dash bold, extra bold. How do you change the font weight? Font / semi bold. Why do I feel like it's not reflecting here? Let's see. Let me open that one more time. Font dash bold. Let me add that. Oh, font dash medium is overriding. Let me remove that. There you go. That's a little too much. Semi bold. There you go. This is the original expectation. This is what we have right now. Pretty close. The gray needs to be a little bit grayer. Eventually, in the real Figma file, you'll have access to the actual colors, but for now, okay, let's make it a little more clear. Username, password seems to work. I have the name field, username field, password field, maybe some more spaces above the labels. So let's do a pt-2 here, maybe 4. That looks good. Gives some breathing room between the input boxes, and we have a simple sign up page. I can put my name here, email here, and password. The next thing we should do is whenever the user clicks on a button, which should be at the bottom here, so let me add the button as well. Again, feel free to search button in Tailwind. You'll get a bunch of nice styles that you can copy over. We need like a blackish button, so something like this, the third one. Copy it, yoink it, paste it, replace this with class name, and then you have a dark button needs to have the full width. So let me do a W dash full, and then I see a button that says dark. It should ideally say based on the type, if it is. So this type is the type that auth takes as input, which can either be sign up or sign in, because I'm going to reuse this component in 2 different pages. I'm not going to rewrite everything for 2 different components. I'm going to have a single component that will take the type as an input, whether it's a sign up component or a sign in component. And then based on the type, you can render over here. If type is sign up, then sign up, else sign in. All right, this looks right. Probably need some padding on top here. pt-8, pt-8 space. Oh, seriously, sorry, margin. There we go. We have a basic sign in page. One more thing that needs to change is, already have an account. All of this needs to be different based on the current type. Type is sign in, then it needs to say something. If it's sign up, then it needs to say already have an account. Don't have an account, and this guy also needs to be different based on the type. Type equal to sign in, then sign up, else sign in, and then login needs to be pretty similar as well. Type equal to sign in, then it should say sign up, else it should say sign in. If I'm on the sign in page, I want to see sign up there and vice versa. So that should do it. If I go and see where I was using auth, in the sign up I need to pass in the type as sign up, and then the sign in component is pretty much the copy paste of it, because the right side needs to be the same, the left side just needs to have the type as sign in, and everything else is good to go. Alright, if I refresh this, I'm on the sign up page. If I click on sign in, I reach the sign in page. If I click on sign up, I reach the sign up page. So good to go. I think things are working as expected. I think this button text is, oh that's right. Alright, good to go. We have a basic landing page. If I make this really smaller, it shits bricks, so let me fix that really quickly. Oh, probably don't want visibility, we want something else. Tailwind hide div. So visible display, there you go. We want display to be none and display to be block based on the width. So let me go back here. It will be block by default. No, sorry, it will be visible by default, and then none. So none by default. If it becomes greater than large, then it becomes block. Same thing over in signup.tsx. Let's see if that works. Sign up. Oh, that did not work. What's visibility? None. Sorry, display none. Hidden. There you go. My bad. Not none. It will be hidden and hidden. And now if I refresh this and if I make this smaller, same page. Yeah, so what's happening is this guy is hiding, the right side is hiding, but it's still there. Oh, of course. No, it's not there. The problem is grid needs to have a single column if it's greater than large. So LG colon, when it's hidden, it needs to have a single column. When it's visible, it needs to have two columns. There you go. This is what I was missing. Copy over the same thing to signup.tsx. I'll explain this very soon. Refresh, make it smaller, and you have a simple sign up screen. If I make it larger, I have two different sides. I don't love the design for this, so I'm being honest, I would put this inside a card, but if this is what Vercel gave us, or the designer gave us, this is what we try to implement. And yeah, let me quickly share what I did here. What I said is, okay, by default, to single column. By default, there will be, this will take full width, this will take full width. But if it becomes greater than LG, then it will be two parts. That's what the breakpoint system in Tailwind is, if you remember. Discussed this back in the class of Tailwind. So what do I say? I say if it's really small, by default, it will have a single column. But if it becomes larger than the LG breakpoint, if it goes above this, then it will have two columns, column 1 and column 2. And then for the column 2, what do I say? I say you will be hidden by default, which means when it's small, you're hidden. When it becomes bigger is when you have display set to block, and that's how you sort of display or / make the right side visible when you go above a certain breakpoint. Cool. That's a sign up and sign in page. The last thing that's left is actually routing the user to a /blogs page where they can see all the blogs. So let's quickly do that. Also actually signing up the user. So let's add a function here, call it send request, which needs to do what? Based on the type, it needs to send these post inputs. The problem is the type here also needs to be different. Here comes a tricky challenge. Oh yeah. So here's the thing. First of all, the sign in page doesn't need to have name. The sign in page only needs to have username and password. So first thing I should do is, only if type is sign up should I render this, else I should not render anything. That's the first thing I should do. Only if the user is signing up should they see the name field, else they should just see username and password. Alright, sounds good, Harkirat. The second thing I should do is, This will just work. The problem is I'm hard coding sign up input here, which should ideally be sign up input or sign in input based on what the type is. So you should get, yeah, this is going to be very hard to like generify this auth component. I can try my best, but I think we'll have to, ideally you should define two components is what I'm saying here. You should have a sign in component, sign up component. We should abstract out all the reusable things. For example, this into a separate header component, and then this we have already sort of extracted into a separate component. But yeah, the types will make it a little tricky. Having conditional types here is sort of very difficult. But since sign in input is just a subset of sign up input, this will just work, but you shouldn't do this. Basically, I'm saying you should divide this into two components and try to reuse as many things as you can. For example, this you should put out into a separate component called the auth header component, and then use the auth header component in the sign in and the sign up component. But to keep things simple, I'm going to leave it here. Let me add Axios as a dependency so that we can send very simple from Axios requests. Axios dot post the backend URL, which in our case, let me put it in a top level file called config.ts. Export const backend URL equal to localhost colon 3000 backend URL slash, let me import this, API slash v1 slash user slash sign up. Await async function this thing, const response equal to await this thing. Ideally put it inside a try catch so that if the request fails at all, you alert the user here that the request failed. But if it did not fail, which means the response here is something you get back. You get back the JWT in the response. So if I do a const JWT equal to response dot text data dot data, this should be good enough. I can set this in the local storage. So local storage dot set item token comma JWT, and then lastly take the user to a different page. So navigate the user to slash blogs, which will have a list of all the blogs. And where does navigate come from? If you remember from it comes from React router DOM. I'm unsure if this is what the hook is called, but let's see. That's right. Navigate to slash blogs. All right. The only thing is the route needs to be either sign up or sign in. If type is sign up, then the route is sign up, else the route is sign in. All right, there you go. So as you can see, even though we tried to generify the component, there are so many sort of nuances here. Okay, this is actually an ugly pattern. Now this feels like an ugly pattern. Would have just been cleaner to have two different components rather than shoving everything in a single component. Shoving everything in a single component gives you some code reusability, but it's just not worth it if you have to write logic like this. It's very hard to understand logic like this by someone else. So I would just rewrite the whole thing, have a separate sign up component, separate sign in component, and put things there separately. All right. Lastly, what should you send in the body? And the answer is it body? I think just send the data right here. Data body post request Axios. Let's Google that really quickly. Yeah, you can just pass in the body, which in my case is going to be the state variable that we had, which is post inputs. There you go. Hakirat, you are sending name also for the sign in request. Yes, does not matter. Your backend will ignore it. You can also just send username and password and not send the name for that specific input, but doesn't matter in this case. Zod will ignore the extra name field and it'll just focus on username and password. So this will just work for both sign up and sign in. The last thing I have to do is actually call send request when the button is clicked. There we go. On click equal to send request. Here, why did you not call it? We've discussed this a few times. This is how you pass in functions to on clicks in React. You don't actually have to call the function over here. All right. Save. Let's go back here. Let's see if the request is going out. So let me inspect. Click on sign up. Let me add Harkirat as my name and harkirat@gmail.com as my email, and 123456 as the password. If I go to the network tab, if I click on, let me start the backend. npm run dev, and the backend URL is localhost 8787. So let me paste that as well. And then if I refresh, the front end is down. Let me open another terminal. Let me start the front end in that one. Refresh, sign up page, Harkirat as the name, harkirat@gmail.com as the email, and 123456. If I click on sign up, I will see a request goes out. It gives me a CORS error. We've seen this many times. We need to enable CORS in our backend. So Hono enable CORS. There you go. Hono gives you a CORS middleware. Just copy it, go to your backend code, which is going to be let's see, backend/index.ts, and here import CORS from @hono/CORS, and there you go, app.use. Any request that comes to, I guess anywhere, it doesn't matter. Use the CORS middleware and this will enable CORS, which means our frontend will be able to talk to our backend. Let me restart the backend. It's running on localhost 8787. If I go back here and now again click on the Harkirat as the name, harkirat@gmail.com as the email, and 123456 as the password. If I click on sign up, it says 411, slightly better. It tells me inputs are not correct for sign up, even though I'm sending it name, password, and username. Interesting. Well, first of all, password and username weren't set. So I'm sending in the wrong username and password. Let's see why. Let me go back to my auth component, and here you will notice that I'm doing this incorrectly. Here I will need to set username, here I need to set password. And now let me try one more time. Let me click on sign up. Let's look at the inputs. Again, it's failed. Seems like it hasn't refreshed. Random name this time now, random email, and random password. I click on sign up. Name, password, username. This looks right. I don't see anything wrong in the inputs, but it says invalid, most probably because this email already exists. So let me put a different email here. Again, this is where you should alert something here. If I put an alert here, or maybe like a cleaner alert, error while signing up, I would have seen that alert. You should put a cleaner alert. You should not put a native alert on your website. There are many like alert libraries available that will give you a cleaner alert rather than the native browser alert. All right, let's try that one more time. It says error while signing up. This time the email that went out was this thing. Something is wrong now. It is not able. The backend is not handling my request. And the reason for that is database URL isn't correct in wrangler.toml. So wrangler.toml, I had removed the database URL in JWT secret here. You can add them back, or let me just deploy my backend, npm run deploy, and then I'll just use my production backend URL in my website. I don't need to connect to my local backend. You're about to, I don't want to update the, never mind, I'll need to get my secrets again. They're present in Cloudflare, so I can log in here and get them. Why did I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here? Let's go to settings followed by variables and then copy over these variables to my local wrangler.toml. And then either deploy it or run it locally, doesn't matter. I'm just going to deploy it and directly run it in production. You are about to publish the last published in Cloudflare dashboard. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, good to go. Now I can just use my production URL here. I don't necessarily need the localhost colon 8787 URL because my backend is already deployed. Let me get that backend URL really quickly and then update that. There you go. Update that in config.ts. And now I can directly talk to my production backend worker. I don't need to, connect to it locally. I don't also need to start the backend locally. All right, moving on. Auth.tsx, we had this. Let me run npm run dev. Oh, sorry, don't need the backend. Go back to the front end. It seems to be working. Let's go to the page. Let's try to sign up one more time. And this time, pending for a long time, gives me some hope. And there you go. 200 status code redirected to /blogs. We're good to go. The user has been created. I got back a response that looked like a JWT. And if things have gone right, I've also set the JWT in my local storage. Let me check. If I copy this, if I go to application, local storage for this website, you will see token is present, which is the token that just came from the backend. So we're good to go. We have a website where sign up is working. Is sign in working? Let's see. Let me put a random name here. hakirat22@gmail.com 123456. Sign up. It does work. Does sign in work though? Let's see. 123456. Sign in. It says error while signing in. Let's see. 123456. Maybe the password was incorrect. Still says error while signing in. Let's see. Open the network tab. 404. Interesting. That's a weird. API v1 user sign in. Isn't that? Is it something else? Router.post/sign in. Why is it giving a 404? I don't ever return a 404. It's not returning 411. It's returning a 404 only. So here is a quick tip. Copy as curl. Again, get the NS request. Click on copy here. Copy as curl. Go to Postman and you can actually import it. I think you have to log in Postman to do it. Just for easier testing, you can actually import this request in Postman. There you go. So the way to do that is click on import, paste the curl here that you copied from the dashboard. And then, you can just send that same request again and again to debug it a little bit better. Let's see what might be wrong. Let me remove the name here and see if that fixes it. Doesn't seem to fix it. Username, password, API v1 user sign in. That looks right. I think this was the actual route. Post was the method. It says 404 not found. Why? Let's see. Let's go back to backend/index.ts. API v1 user goes to the user router, inside which the /signup route and the /signin route. So that was what was incorrect. I had like the whole thing here, which means I would have had to hit, /API/user/user /API/v1/user/signin. This is incorrect. So let me fix that. What do I have to do next? Publish this again. npm run deploy. This is the benefit of, Cloudflare. As you can see, immediate deploy directly to production, don't even care. And, your application is fixed on the internet and you can just, start to send the requests again. That's what I like about these worker environments. All right. Let's see. Close that. Let me try signing in one more time. And this time, it does sign in. So sign up and sign in seem to be working correctly, which means I'm done with this page and I've also connected it to my backend. The next thing I need to do is let's build this page. This is the easiest one here, and this is also the one that the user needs to go to next. So after they sign in, we need to go to the /blogs page. So this is the page that we need to implement next, which is it shows all the existing blogs that currently exist. Let's do that next. All right, next up, let's build the blogs component, which is this thing right here. There are a few things this guy has which we don't yet expose on the backend. For example, the date. So let's make some backend changes. Let's be very flexible and change the code a little bit to support as many of these as we can. We probably won't support tags. Tags will get a little complicated because there'll be many to many. But it shouldn't be too difficult to add. We'll also have to return the description, the content, which is something we don't return. So we'll see. Let's figure it out. After you sign in, you go to the /blogs endpoint. So let me first add a route handler for this. There you go. This blogs component is what gets rendered now. And here I need to first, while this was a page, I need to create a new component called, what should I call this? Blog card.tsx. Which needs to, we'll get to the inputs eventually. Let's first build this card right here in this code. So put them side to side. All right. First we have an avatar like component. This is like a very popular component. You'll see like a round avatar thingy, which basically means we require either an avatar image, which we don't yet have in the database. So let's just accept the author name as an input. Interface blog card props author name, which is a string, and maybe title, which is a string, and then content, which is a string, and then date at which it was published, which is can be a string if I'm being honest, could be a date as well. Let's just stick with string for now. So these are the 4 inputs that I get: title, content, and published date, the type of which is blog card props. Given these 4 inputs, we need to render this sort of a card. We'll ignore the image over here. So the first thing that needs to come is the name of the user and an avatar component. So let's create a div inside which we'll have the name of the component, author name, space. Is there a dot here? Seems like there's a dot here. We can add that. That's like not, I'll just start adding dot, but you can actually add like central, vertically centered dot. Not too difficult. And then the published date. We don't have any members only component. We could add like premium, all that jazz, but since we don't, we're going to ignore this thing. Then there's the title. And then there's not the whole content. You probably want like, content dot substring or maybe slice 0,100 plus dot dot dot, something like this. Basically, part of the blog and dot dot dot. You should have a check here. Okay, only if the content is greater than 100 should you add dot dot dot. Else you don't have to. I'm not doing that. What else? This footer, we don't have any of this. We can add like a 3-minute read. Like add some logic to calculate how many minutes it takes. Content divided by 100 maybe. Math.floor. No, sorry, seal of content divided by 100. Minutes, which means if the content is of less than 100 characters, then it will be 1 minute. If it's between 100 and 200, then it will be 2 minutes, so on and so forth. That's pretty much it. I need to style this better, but let's see how this blog card component looks. So let me add blog card, and what are the props? Of the blog, content of the blog, 2nd Feb 2024, let's say. There we go. Given we have this, let's see how this looks. There's also like a line at the end. I don't know if you can see it, but let me also add that line thingy, which will just be like a div with like bg slate 200 and then a h-1, which means height of 1, width of full, and background color slate, which can imitate this line. You can also have like a border bottom. Either works, I guess. Border bottom is slightly better, but we'll see. All right, this is the code that I've written. Let's see how it looks. Looks pretty ugly compared to this. So let's start to style it a bit. Number 1, before the author's name, we need the avatar component. So avatar tailwind. I'm sure there is an easy way to do it. Yeah, so if you have an image, you can do something like this, like copy this, but we don't have images yet. So yeah, you can do something like this basically, or a popular thing, I don't know if they have it here, is to just have the initials of the person, something like this. So if the author name is Harkirat Singh, then you can have a component that looks like this, which has HS written over here. So let me create a fresh component called avatar, which returns this right here, and here I will write the author initials. So I need to extract, given the name of the author, I need to extract the first two characters from it. So name of 0, I mean you can extract both of them. I'm assuming the user has a single name, so it will just be J, but you can get fancy and if the user has 2 digits, 2 names, Harkirat Singh, then you can extract HNS. I'm just extracting the first letter from it. And let me put this avatar component right before this guy. Name equal to author name. Alright, let's go back here. I see this H component, it's a little too big, so let's make it smaller. H-5 or 4. Let's make this smaller as well. Font dash small. XS tailwind font size SM. XS. This looks good. We have this. We have Harkirat. The only thing is the color here is black, but if you look at it, it's very thin. So let's add a font weight here. Let's make it extra light. It's font dash extra light. I keep forgetting this, but someone recommended an application that lets you split well. Can someone tag me on Discord and tell me what that is? One more time, a Mac application that lets you split. Alright. Font dash extra light. Where will this come? Here, there you go. Let's see. Probably need it to be lighter and smaller, so font slash thin. Oh, I'm putting it in the wrong place, am I not? I am. Let me put it here. Avatar followed by author name class name equal to font dash thin. Alright, well, thin is a little too thin, so let's make it slightly fat. Alright, we also need this to have a flex. There we go. We also need this avatar to be centrally aligned, which I don't know if you have done it before, but one way to do that is wrap the div, the avatar, inside a div, and on the div you say it has flex, it has justify content, justify center, and flex call. There you go. It's centrally aligned. I said, okay, bhai, this whatever your child is, align it centrally, vertically, which is why vertically this H is now. Let me increase the size of it. Now vertically centered, then the author name, then the date. Let me also add some PL-2 here, so some padding, and then same for the list date. PL-2. Alright, let's see. This is what it looks like. The date is even thinner. So date is probably, font dash light, was it? Thin. Alright. Looks okay. The colors here are, the date is green color, so that will be font dash slate dash 200. Font color. Come on. Text color, there you go. Text dash slate dash 200. Oh, that's a little too thin. Sorry, a little too light. 400 maybe. Alright, we have this. Members only we don't want to put. We have name, we have the avatar. There needs to be a dot in between them, like a centrally aligned dot, which there's a code dot in HTML. There's a code that you can add. By code I mean basically, so yeah, a Unicode. example, something like this. If you need, we need a dot. So we need, what do we need? This might, oh, there you go. This is what we need. Try it. There you go. Let's get that. And then paste that here. Alrighty, let's go back and see how it looks. It's a little too fat, so let's make the font size small. Text-sm. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Class name equal to text-sm. Access. Also needs to be centrally. Let's see, how big is the dot? Is there a dot? It's like a really small dot, guys. Even access is a little too big for this. What can you do? You can do a few things. You cannot use the Unicode. You can create your own circle component. Let's just do that. Function circle return div class name equal to h-1 w-1 border 50%. How do you add a border 50%? This guy was rounded, right? So it has something here. Let's see, relative, justify center, hidden, bg, create rounded full. There you go. Bg dash slate dash 200. Right, let's see. 1 second. Text dash gray. What did I change here that messed this up? Let's see. There you go. This thing right here. There we go. Avatar name, my name, and then the date. It's a little too big right now, but we can fix that. We need a circle between this guy and this guy. So I have defined a circle component that looks right. Let me replace my, where did that div go? Between Harkirat, which is the author name. There you go. This one right here. I'm going to put the circle component here. It's a little too small of a circle. There you go. Let's make it slightly bigger. Go. Let's make it vertically aligned as well, which, as I showed a few seconds ago, that's what you need for that. It's vertically aligned. Let's put some padding at the left. PL-2. There you go. All right. Looks pretty close to this. We have this, and this. What else do we need in this component? The title needs to be bolder, bigger, and this guy needs to be smaller. So let's do that next. The title needs to be bigger and bolder. So class name equal to text dash XL, font dash bold. It's a little too bold. Looks okay, I guess. Semi bold. There we go. And then contents need to be thin. So minutes, and then contents thin, and then MD. There we go. This is what the thing would finally look like. Of course, it's stuff to the left. We'll fix that. Date, and then what else do we need? The font size is a little bit bigger, but here we can fix that. Content, and then 1 minute ago, 3 minute read. That needs to be text dash slate dash 400. Oh, sorry, wrong one. You don't need this. There you go. W full, you don't need that. Text slate 400. Let's see how that looks. 1 minute. All right. It's a little smaller, I'm assuming. 3 minute read. read. Let's make it a little smaller. Text dash sm. All right. It's also a little bit thinner. So font dash thin. There we go. It's a little too thin. Let's make this 500. All right. Let's add the line at the bottom. Which will be border bottom tailwind. Let's see. How do you add just a bottom border in tailwind? I'm sure there's a way. There we go. No. Let's see. Border T2. There you go. So border B2, I guess. And then the color. Let's see. Go here. It's a border top. I need a border bottom. It's a little too pink for me. So firstly it needs to be 1. Secondly it needs to be slate 200. 400. Can it not be 1? Has to be 2 at least. It's a little too big. It's like such a thin border. Let's see. Border width. There you go. Border dash 0. Border dash 2. There's no in the middle. Border. There you go. Border slate 400. There you go. And then a padding bottom of 2. Maybe 4. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah. It's a little too gray. So let's make it 200. There we go. Looks pretty close to what we need. We needed this sort of a component. We got this. Let me add the text again, like make some bigger text, put them there, and then we'll go from there. It will look much better if we had like more things here. Unfortunately, we don't. We can probably add these 3 dots for an edit, but take it. Let's get there when we get there. All right. Let me quickly number 1 go to blogs.tsx and make this slightly bigger. So how an ugly single website makes $5,000 a month without affiliate marketing. I probably have to read this one. Oh, this is the title, my bad. Harkirat Singh, and then the title, and then the content. Let it just be the same thing, and then publish date. That's fine. Let's refresh. Looks decentish. See, there's a lot of space here. Isn't enough space here. The avatar component is a little too small. Let's make it a little bigger. All right. Let's go to block card. Let's make the avatar component a little bigger. 6. All right. And what else? Text needs to be smaller. I think these 2 texts need to be a little bit smaller. Let's do that next. There you go. Text dash sm, and same for the next guy. Only thing is the table has turned. This has become bigger than these guys. It basically means now these guys need to be centrally aligned. So, you know, the whole flex thingy that I had here probably needs to go to the rest of the components, because the avatar is the BAP now. The avatar is the big component now. And the smaller ones we need to centrally align. There you go. So Harkirat Singh is centrally aligned, and then circle is centrally aligned, and then publish date is centrally aligned. You can also put them together. That will work as well. All right. Looks pretty decent. Is there anything else I'm missing? No. Maybe some more padding here. So right above, let's say right here, pt-2. Looks decent. And then 3 minutes read has also a lot of padding. So pt-2, maybe 4. There we go. Cool. Let's try to now, make this page slightly prettier, which means, have them all maybe in the center of the page, and have a maximum width, so they don't take the whole width. So if you go to blogs.tsx, you can do a parent has a class name of let's see, flex justify center. There we go. Already looks pretty good. And then max w-xl, maybe, yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks like a card like this, only it doesn't have an image. It has an extra border though, which is not great. Also, it's not aligned towards the center, so let me do a div flex and justify center. So class name equal to flex justify center, and there we go. We need some padding in the block card. Everything else is good. P-4. There we go. It looks very decent. We have a card similar to this here, only it has like borders everywhere. I don't know why. Let's see. Border dash. Oh, why do I have a border slated to it here? Remove that. Border, remove that. I need a borders dash B. There you go. A bottom border, and then this is the thing. There you go. Let's add a few more blocks here, but I guess you get the idea. Oh, fucking A. What did we miss? This does need to be flex. There you go. Alrighty. We have something like this. A bunch of blog card components that I can just, click on. Now, if you go to medium.com, really, they have this on the left, and a bunch of other things on the right. Where we haven't built any of this, which is why I'm not writing it. This is what we've built right now. We haven't built any of this as well, following all that jazz. This is what we have right now. We should probably add more things, but here is a good start. You should have an app bar, we can add an app bar. That's not too difficult, but for blogs, this is all we have for now. Let me add an app bar really quickly. Did we have an app bar here? Let's see, we did. We didn't, but okay, we can copy this. This is what the Medium app bar looks like. Let's copy that over. Let's go to components. Let's add an app bar.tsx. App bars are usually, a very subtle border bottom. Border dash B, and then probably flex and justify between. Basically, most app bars have something on the left, something on the right. Also has like a decent bunch of padding here and here. So P-10 or maybe P-X-10, which means horizontal padding of 10 on both the sides. And now the first div will have the left side, which in this case, will be medium or whatever your application is. And the right side will be things like these, a logout button, notifications, so on and so forth. We'll just have the avatar component, which we already created. Let's see, where did we create it? Here. Let me export this guy. This needs to be avatar. The only thing is it needs to have the name of the user. So this is where recoil will come into the picture, where we store the user's details somewhere in the store. So this avatar component can also get it. Name equal to Harkiyat for now, but we'll change that. All right, let's see how the app bar looks. You don't see it yet because I forgot to save the blogs.tsx file. So here, let me add a app bar at the top, after which I add the div that has everything else. There we go. And we have a simple-ish app bar. I don't have this. Let's add some padding. PY-4. Yeah, looks pretty decent. So medium avatar here. Ideally, clicking on this should give you a logout button. We can do it eventually. Let's move on for now. And avatar needs to be a little bit bigger. That's the only other thing I would change. So I would go here and make avatar get a size as an input as well, which will be a number. And then where is W-6 and H-6 would actually be replaced by this. But here, like if you want to do this, what I'm doing right now is a little ugly, as you can see. Adding dynamic styles classes. What you can do is you can use something called CLSX, which lets you merge classes. So this might seem a little ugly, even though this just works. But if you want to merge dynamic classes like this, by dynamic classes I mean in our case it's W dash, the size that came in, and H dash, the size that came in, and I can default it to 4, and make the component here send size as 6. Size can be optional. So by default it will be 4, but another component can send in 6, whoever wants a bigger avatar, Now if you look at it, this is slightly bigger than these components. These are small components. Ideally this should be 8 and probably the default should be 6. There we go. This looks decent, and then this looks really bad because 10 is a little too big. 8 apparently does not exist then. 7 does exist. This is a little too big, I'm not going to lie. I probably need to adjust the font size as well then. So let's do that. Yeah, let's make the variant something like this. Small or big. So size can either be small or it can be big. And if size is small, then it will be W-6 H-6, else it will be W-10 H-10, and then same for the font size. It will be size equal to small, then the text XS, else it will be text-MD maybe. Alright, let's pass in size equal to big over here, and then let's see. It looks pretty decent. This looks small, this looks bigger, and we have a decentish component. Now again, this is not centrally aligned because this became really big. So how do you fix that? If you go back here, you can be like class name equal to flex flex direction dash col justify dash center, sorry, flex dash col. There we go, and medium is centrally aligned. All right, cool. Yeah, good start. Your top bar can have a bunch of other things, but this is a decent start. What else do we need? We need this to be actually dynamic. That's the simplest part here. We need some sort of state management to fetch all the blogs and maybe put them in a recoil state or put them here. Doesn't matter. Matters a little bit, but for this landing page doesn't really matter. You can just fetch them here and store it in state. You don't need to use recoil for users for something. Even for users, actually, this user and this user aren't the same, so you don't really need state management on this one. We can just to understand recoil a bit, but even without recoil, this will just work. So let's next up convert this to a dynamic, like actually fetch these from the backend and then go from there. All right. So how do you want to do this? We can either store it in state, we can store it directly here, we can store it in a context variable, even though I don't know why you want to do this, and we can also create our own custom hook called use blogs. Doesn't matter. It's a very simple application. You don't need a state to be shared really well. So let's just do this. But if these blogs were being used in 10 different places, when I would put them in my recoil store, Redux store, wherever. All right. Let me create a new folder, call it hooks, and inside my hooks folder, I'm going to initialize index.ts. You can structure it better if need be. Export const, what do you call it? Use blogs equal to return div slash, what am I doing? It's a hook. Const loading comma set loading equal to use state true, return loading, and then blogs. Const blogs comma set blogs equal to use state empty array, and then have a use effect at the top, and then make an empty array, which basically means anytime this hook is used, send a request axios dot get backend URL slash API slash v1 slash blog slash bulk. I think it was this, or blogs, I don't know. Const is equal to yeah, so you cannot use, I think I mentioned this before, but you cannot have async functions inside an effect. So you can either call a different function or use the dot then syntax here. Something like this. Response followed by set blogs as response dot data, and then set loading as false. All right, returns loading and blogs. Yeah, that looks good. And then just use the blogs over here as const blogs equal to use blogs, not exactly blogs, loading comma blogs, and here is where you can do fancy things. You can be like, if loading, then return div that says loading. You can do this dumb thing, or you can create what are called skeletons. So if you go to medium.com, you will notice before the thing actually comes, there are skeletons over here. What are skeletons? These loaders that you just saw, loader. Not too difficult to build. We can build them if need be. To keep things up, I'm just going to add loading here, but very easy to add skeletons over here as well. Another thing that will happen here is, we'll see how our backend now changes, because right now the blogs endpoint returns what? If I go to Postman and send the request to /API v1 blog bulk, a get request. Okay, let me change this to the actual URL. It says you're not logged in. Shoot. Let me add my token in the headers somewhere here. Authorization. Application. Put it here, send, and then it says, taking a long time, but you get back the block. You get back content, you get title, you get published, you get author ID, or you basically get content and title. The only thing that's missing from the backend is the author name. So let's quickly change the backend. Let me go back to backend / blog.ts, and here I'm going to be like, anytime there is a get request to /bulk along with the data, which is going to be, what all do you need? You need content, true, you need title, true, you need maybe the ID, you don't really need the ID, and then you need the author, inside which you need the name of the author, and that's it. Yeah, so the backend now returns not just the content and the title, but also the author details. If I deploy this from the backend, npm run deploy, this should update my backend as well, and then I can just hit the endpoint one more time. This is the benefit of using Cloudflare. I'm repeating this, but this is so cool. You can do a production, I don't even have to test locally. I'm directly deploying to production, which is something you shouldn't do, but I'm just doing it right now. All right. Content, title, ID, author, name, null. The author does not have a name because when Harkirat signed up, did not send in the name. Totally possible. What can we do? We can enforce names if need be. Name is the field, right? Or is it something else? Is it first name? Let me see. Schema.prisma name. Yeah, name is the string. It's just optional. The blogs that we're currently fetching don't have a name, which is surprising. I would have thought they did have a name. Let's see. Let me sign up one more time. Sign up. Harkirat Singh is my name. harkiratrandom@gmail.com, and then some password. You reach the blogs page, and now let's see. Oh, sorry, it doesn't. Oh, I need to create a new blog. How can I create a new blog? Let me quickly go to Postman and create a new blog from this new user's ID. Body can be anything random. Oh, needs to have title and content. Makes sense. Send. Need to replace the first part right here. Send, and then a blog is created. Now let me fetch all the blogs one more time, and now the last blog should have a name. Here you go, Harkirat Singh. So yeah, I have some erroneous blogs here. It's fine. The author name won't appear for them, but for the new ones, the people who have a name, it will appear. So let's do that next. Let's see what's happening here right now. It's stuck on loading, which means something is failing. Bulk is failing. 403. Why is a 403 coming? Can you guess? If I go to hooks, you will see I'm not sending the headers along. So I need to send authorization with the token, which is local storage dot get item token. And now if I refresh, moment of truth did not work. There you go, did work. And I see a single blog. Why? Oh, no, why do I see a single blog? Let's see. Yeah, there you go. I haven't iterated over all the blogs. Let me do that next. Blogs.map blog card. So let me just render all the blogs with these default values. Now if I refresh the page, I see loading for a while, and then it just crashes. Let's see why. Blogs dot. Okay, what's the thing that comes back from here? Blogs is the key that comes back, so it actually needs to be. If I go back to the hooks, it will be set blogs response.data.blogs. And now if I refresh, there you go. I see a bunch of posts. Only the titles are not correct right now, so let me quickly change that. blog.author.name.title. Oh, this is another thing we don't yet support, but like fairly easy to add. Let's refresh. Blog.author. It gives you a bunch of TypeScript errors. It says basically use blogs needs to have a better type. So let me just initialize this with a new type called blog. So interface blog, which looks like this. So this will be a blog array, and then the interface is content, which is a string, title, which is a string, number, author name, which is a string. All right. Cool. Let's refresh. Author.name. That looks right. String, title, content. Yeah, what's the error? Can be property of 0. Name of 0. Makes sense. So yeah, author don't have names by default, so I'm default to an empty string, or maybe something like anonymous. Okay, by this person doesn't have a name. And now if I refresh, you will see if this needs to have a min width. So let me go to blog card and have a w-min lc or md. Width min tailwind min dash w dash md. Alrighty. LG did not work. Is this the right one? Blog card display flex. Maybe no, this is the right one. This has a minimum width of large min dash. Oh, sorry. I don't think you can have that. Okay, min width. Max width. There you go. Min width screen MD. Can you do that? Min w width dash screen dash large. See. Seems like you cannot do that. Min width. Let's try this. Min width full. What we can do is something like this, maybe. W dash full. There we go. So we have screen for the parent. Okay, this one surprisingly is taking longer than I expected. Width. What do I want? We want this guy's width to be, when it's bigger, like something like this. When it's smaller, then just the full width. Let's do w dash full. Sorry, w dash screen. That's fine. Why does it have so much padding on the left? Border B. Doesn't matter. The other thing we'll do is max w dash lg. There we go. Max width. There we go. Okay, looks decent-ish. Still some problems, but we can fix that fairly quickly. Let's see. Oh, there you go. There we go. So yeah, even if the text is small, it has like a minimum width, and then if your screen becomes really small, then it becomes the size of your screen. All right, looks decentish. I think it's a little too big, so we can make it a little smaller. MD, there we go. Looks pretty good. Would look nicer if the titles were bigger and content was bigger, but okay, good start. Do we see an author name? Anonymous, and then we see Harkirat Singh over here. It says H over here. It says A over here. Perfect. Clicking on this should do what? So let me first add a cursor pointer here so that the blog is actually a pointer when I come over here. And then clicking on this should do what? It should take you to the user somewhere. So let me just wrap this inside the link. Okay, when the user clicks on this, the user should go where? To equal to /blog/ the ID of this blog. So blog card needs to take the ID as input as well. ID, and then wherever I'm entering it, I need to send the ID as well. So if I go to blogs, ID equal to blog.id. There we go. Refresh. Yikes. Console link is not defined. That should be straightforward. Link comes from React Router DOM. Alrighty, looks decent. If I click on this, it takes me to /blog/1. Now here is where I should get all. So here comes another thought experiment. You already have all the blogs for the user, like not for the user, like literally all the blogs you have on this page. If I go to this page, I have all the blogs. Again, this loading, we should change the loader by the way. Yeah, it looks bad. We should add skeletons basically. But before that, what I'm saying is, you already have the blogs. So when you click on this, should you refetch the blog details? What do you think happens on Medium? We already have all the blog details, right? So when I'm clicking on this, why is it reloading it? Why do I see the skeleton again? Why does it not? It already had the thing on the front end. Why did it not simply render it there? And that's a good question. The answer is, as you can see, it probably doesn't have the whole content. We, in our case, fetch the whole content. We're fetching like, where did it go? We're fetching the title and the complete content, but Medium, almost 99.99%, does not get the whole content, just gets the first 10 lines or something. So when you click here, it refetches the data. It probably should do that. There's nothing wrong in it, right? Question is, should we do it? Yeah, probably. We probably should also refetch the data. So when I click on a blog, it reaches here, is when I should send a request to fetch the blog again. And here is another thought experiment of, okay, you will get the details of the blog Harkirat from the blog endpoint that we had on the backend. If you remember, the backend has, this get ID route. So you can use this route and, get the data from the backend. The question is, where do you store it? If I go to the blog component, Harkirat, do I store it here? Do I create a hook? You could, but here is where atom families / selector families, whatever you want to use here, are a little like, this is the perfect use case of selector families and atom families. Why, Harkirat? Because if you look at it, when you were at the Medium page, when I opened this the first time, there was a loader, but now that I'm opening it a second time, notice there is no loader. It has all of this data stored somewhere in the state. So for that reason, whenever you're opening blogs, as you can see, if I open this one the first time, I see a loader, but if I open the same one second time, I don't see a loader. Similarly here, loader, but the second time I open it, different one. I saw loader, and now if I do it, I don't see a loader anymore. So this is why, it's a good idea to not store your blog here, because then you'll be refetching it, versus, caching the data somewhere, and recoil is probably the best way to do it, the best place to do it. Let's see if you want to do that later on. To kick things off, just, create a simple hook and go from there. So if I go to hooks /index.ts, Let me define another hook called use blog, which takes an ID as an input, and then return again. Why do I keep doing this? Shouldn't return a div. Let me just copy everything from use blogs, put it here, and then this is a blog and not blogs. It will return a blog. We'll have to change the shape of the backend, and then axios.get /blog/id, and ID should be dependency here, set blog, and then it should return loading and blog. All right, looks decent. We just need to make sure that the backend is returning, data in this shape. Let's see if it does that. If I go to Postman, if I go here, let's see what it returns. ID, so again, it returns the author ID. We need the real author details. So this endpoint will change as well. If I go to blog, like routes/blog right here, I need to, which endpoint do I need? I need the /:ID endpoint to return not just the title and the content, but also the author details, which is just the name of the author is. Good enough. All right. Again, thankfully, we are in a serverless environment, so we will just deploy to production. Should we do this? I don't know. Debatable. Some people do it. Some people don't do it. Don't do it in a big company. In your side project, doesn't matter. But yeah. All right. Let's see now what it returns. Now it returns slightly better shape. Title, content, author, name, null. That's fine. Maybe the ID as well. All right. Now that I get the blog, use blog, not blog, I get the blog right here. I can just use it again in the blog.tsx const blog equal to use blog, and then the standard thing we did the other side as well. Loading comma blog. If loading, then just return. Again, you should add skeletons here. We'll probably do that before the class. And then here is where you need to render the actual blog, which means this page right here. The title is very big, and then posted on, and then the contents, and then the details of the author on the right. All right, let's create this component. Let's call it. We can create a component. We can put it here. Probably create a component. Let's call it the. Calling it the blog component sounds wrong. Blog. Because this is also called blog, I'd rather call it, full blog.tsx. I don't know. It's a pretty bad name, if I'm being honest. Const full blog. All right. We have the full blog here, which needs to, on the left, render this title and everything. On the right, render this. So div class name equal to grid dash calls dash 12, and then div class name equal to grid dash calls dash 8. I think this takes 8 columns and this takes 4 columns. There's some padding here, px dash 10, and then another one that takes the last 4 columns. Hello and hi. All right, let's see how that looks. /blog/1. Export const use blogs. What's up here? Use blog. All right, sorry about that. And a syntax error. Refresh, gives me an error. Cannot destructure property ID of undefined. Use blog. ID of undefined. Whenever I'm sending use blog, I need to send the ID in as well. I cannot simply call it natively, so I need to pass the ID here as well, which will come from where? It will come from here, the dynamic route. So React router DOM get dynamic route parameter. Let's see, how do you get it? Oof. So class base component. There you go. Use params, and then const ID is equal to use params, then the ID goes here. String is not assignable to number, string undefined. Number of ID or 1. Now string, so ID or an empty string. Alrighty, if loading this thing else returns blog details. Alright, let's refresh that one more time. /blog/1 loading followed by blog details. That looks pretty decent. Network tab does return me the details of the blog correctly. So I just need to render everything now. Blog, full blog, what is it called? Full blog. If I render this, I see hi, I see hello. My columns look a little weird. Let's see w-full, bv-red, -200, easy-green-200. Alright, why is this so small? Is what she said. Hi, hello. Something is incorrect. BG dash, I don't know, yellow dash 200. So it takes the full width. Grids always confuse me. Grids in Tailwind. Let's see. Grid calls 4 and then div and div. Grids, what did I have here? Grid calls 12 and then let's see. Grid dash, okay, let's try this. I need to revise my grid concepts. Okay, 50-50 looks decent. With the padding, so that looks good. Now I need to make this bigger, smaller. How do you do that? I'm sure there's a easy way here. There you go. Calls start to calls span 4. There we go. So this will have 12 and then this will span the 8 columns. This will span the 4 columns. Let me refresh that one more time. Yeah, looks good. Takes 8, takes 4. Let me remove all the colors. And then let's put a top padding of, I don't know, 200. I also need an app bar. Alright, we have the app bar, we have the content, we need to add the contents of the blog. So let's see, what do we need to add next? We need to add this specific component, very big text. So let's put that here. It will be a div which will have class name equal to text dash 3XL font dash extra bold. This will have the title of the blog. So you'll get blog as an input which will be of type blog. We need to export this from the hooks. So I export the blog from this hook/index.ts. I import it here and then I can use it here, blog.title and then blog.content will be fairly straightforward. Alright, need to pass in the blog as well, so let me do that. Okay, my first blog is a little smaller. Let's make it bigger. It's probably, let's see, where did it go? This has like a max width, like the padding is a little bit more. What I can do is I can do this div class, oh not this one, this guy, max dash h dash 2xl, something like that. Let's see, width, there we go, max width, something like this. Oh, it's small is also what she said. What is it? LG and XL. Let's do XL. Screen dash XL looks decentish. Maybe 2XL is better. 2XL. Alright, looks decent. This needs to be centrally aligned, so div class name equal to flex, justify center. There you go. We probably have a, yeah, there you go. Blog on the left, author details on the right. The blog needs to have what? It needs to have the title, which needs to be even bigger. So I don't know, 5XL. There you go. And posted on is the next thing it needs to add. So posted on blog doc. This is again something we forgot to return from the backend. We probably should. 2nd December 2023. Yeah, let's make it text dash gray. Sorry, slate dash 200. Each looks bad. 500 looks decent. And then once upon a time the actual content, which this one doesn't have a lot of it. Yeah, this thankfully is the color. The default color here is probably grayish if I had to guess. So let me make it a little bit gray. But yeah, 4. There you go. Probably needs to be 2. Right. Looks decent. Let me remove the red color from the background. Alright, my first blog needs to have a lot of padding on the top, so let's add a pt-10. There we go, maybe 12. Alright, my first blog, it needs to be smaller, I guess. Let's make it XL only. It looks decent. So this is where the blog will be. This is where the author details will be. The author details needs to be okay. Blog.author.name. Which, well, this guy didn't have any. Actually, let me just go to use like the hooks and give like a default value to the author. I don't know. We could do that, or we can. I don't know. Either is fine. Let me just do this. Anonymous. There we go. Since this guy does not have a name, and it has a bunch of other details of the user which we don't again store in the backend. We can like the person can have a catchphrase or something. For now, I'm just going to put a random catchphrase, I guess. Random catchphrase about the author's ability to grab the user's attention. Alright, this is in the wrong place, so let me add it in the right place. Where is the author details? There you go. Right here. Now the author's name is author and then the actual name. So first thing is author and then comes the actual name, and the actual name needs to be a little bit bigger, as you can see. So text dash LG space 2XL, I guess. Font dash bold, and that's it. This guy needs to have a pt-2 maybe, and text dash slate dash 500. Looks decent. This and this is done. There's an avatar here, so let me add that. On the left, so basically it needs to be flex, and then this thing on the right, and on the left we'll have a avatar, blog.author.name. This is why I was saying we should default to anonymous somewhere place else, because we're doing it twice here. You can just do it in the hook. So if you go to the hook, you can just default the author to anonymous. If the backend doesn't return it, you can do it on the backend as well. It's probably the best place to do it, if I'm being honest. So yeah, on the backend or somewhere else you can do this anonymous catch. Okay. All right, let's pass in a size equal to small, maybe big actually, and then refresh. Okay, something is up here. Avatar, flex, Why is this getting squished? Okay, there you go. Class name equal to p padding to the right of 2. Okay, looks decent. And this is probably center line, so put this at the center here. For that, again, we've done this once, like many times now. Flex flex dash col justify dash center. There you go, on the center, maybe a little more padding on the right, and we're good to go. Alright, we have the author details. This is probably a little bit gray. Text dash slate dash 500 600. Alright, text dash LG. Okay, there you go. Looks decent. Very close to what we have here. Posted on the actual contents. We need a real blog. That's the only problem. So let's copy over someone's blog. Let's steal someone's data. Oh, Medium doesn't. Clicking on Medium doesn't take me back to the page, so probably should change that. Cursor, pointer, and then maybe put it inside a link. To equal to slash slash, and link should come from import from, there you go. Oh, sorry, wrong one. React Cloud Tom. Cool. Loading followed by each. Medium is a little messed up right now. Let's do this. Alright, if I click on this, it takes me back to the landing page, which, well, doesn't have anything right now. Should probably take you back to the blogs page, if I'm being honest. So slash blogs. Alrighty, cool. We have the blogs. The only thing that's left is the most difficult component for today, which is going to be, sorry, this is a little light. So we're done with this page, we're done with this page, we're done with this page. We're left with this page, which is the actual page that lets you create a new blog. Now this Medium, of course, has a very fancy, not even fancy, like usable text editor. This is a very complex problem to solve in itself. Creating an editor where people can come and put not just text but images, blogs, hyperlinks, things like these, YouTube links, embeds. So it's like a whole thing in itself. There are a few libraries that make it a little easy for you to have bold text, italic text, and let the user basically create a very fancy editor. Would urge you to do it. I can share a few draft.js. I think this one. This is what I used like a while back. I don't know if this is a popular one today, but I'm sure there's these are called what are called rich text editors. So basically means you let the user on your website not just write text, but write H6 and backquotes and lines and so on and so forth. Similar to Notion. So this is like a whole front-end challenge in itself as to how you can build a complex editor for the user. We'll keep it simple. We'll add like a title input box, a blog input box, fairly straightforward. But should you do this, if you're actually creating Medium, the bare minimum is this is one of their modes. That the editor is really good, lets the user drop images, create embeds to YouTube links. I said images, but you get the idea. A bunch of things they let you do. So yeah, you should do that if you're actually building Medium. But I'm going to keep it simple and add like the title and the description. Alright, let's do that next. This is the last page that's left. Alright, what's the last thing we need? We need a publishing UI, which basically means, to kick things off, let me add a publish button here, very similar to what they have here. Yeah, I guess it doesn't have to be published. I guess publishes in the final page. Here let's put a new blog button or something like that in the top bar. So let me go to app bar and here add a button, maybe a green button similar. So buttons in tailwind, and I need the green one. So this one I guess is good enough. There you go. So a green button. Let's move all the dark mode overrides. Alright, and let's call it new. So if I go here, I see a new button, maybe add some padding on the right. PR-4, PR/8, unless there's already a PR somewhere here. There isn't one. Why is it not adding? Oh, it will need to be a margin and not a padding. There you go. It's a little too much. So okay, new should do what? New should take the user. Let me put this inside a link. Take the user to a new route. Let's call it the to equal to /publish. That sounds pretty good to me. And let me add this to app.tsx. Route path equal to /publish, element equal to a new publish component, which the user can use to actually publish one of their blog posts. Export const publish equal to return div. Let me make this publish, and then what does this then need to have? It needs to have two input boxes. You know, it needs to be like this, but we're not making it as fancy. So it needs to have one big input box at the top and one sort of a text area at the bottom. So let's do input box tailwind, maybe even text area tailwind, and let's copy over a bunch of these. This one looks decentish. Copy, paste. Wow, that's a lot of things. This is why I hate tailwind. It's a little verbose. You probably don't need a bunch of these things, but this is fine. Doesn't have to be an email, can be text. Don't need an ID, don't need an ARIA label. Class name, and let me remove all the dark overrides. Placeholder equal to title, and then okay, that's the input. And why is this? Do we need this? We don't need this. All right. Close the specific tag, and let's see how it looks. If I go back to my page, click on new, it takes me to a publish page which has a very long title. Probably can restrict the width max-w-screen-lg, and then put it on the center of the page. So div class name equal to flex justify-center. There we go. Alright, so we have a title. That's a little too weird. It needs to be bigger. Let's see what we can do. W-full. Label W-full. Wait, where is the label? Don't need the label, just the input box is fine. Needs to be a little bigger. W-screen-lg. Okay, there we go. Let's add an app bar to the top. You can also clean the app bar a bit. You don't need to individually add app bar everywhere. But okay. When we reach Next.js, you'll see how easy this becomes. App bar followed by a bunch of. Oh, okay. Cool. Input box, which is the title. App bar looks a little weird, and that's because it's here. It should be here. So we have the app bar. We have a sort of a card. Let's make this pt-8. The title to your blog post, and then the actual blog post, which needs to be a text area similar to. This looks pretty decent, but as I said, you know, it doesn't have. We don't have any of these functionalities, so you can copy this if you want, but you know, you're fooling the system here. You actually need to implement whatever navigation, attaching files, images, emojis, so on and so forth. So if you want, you can actually implement this, but I would, you know, use a library like Draft, probably a newer one. Draft.js is a pretty old library, but a new text editor library that lets you create all of this. All right, let me define a separate component called text editor. which returns this as such. Wow, this is a very big component. Replace all the class equal to with class names. Bunch of red squigglies. Oh, form /form button. It has a published post button. Nice, that looks decent. I can reuse that. So this looks fine. The div above looks okay. It's probably a tag in here somewhere that's not closed. So let's try to find that. That's why I hate copying things from here, because yeah, they don't assume you're using React, which is why they don't close a few tabs, sorry, a few tags. But I think we can find the erroneous ones. Let's do some hit and trial here. Remove all of this. Oh, sure, that's a lot. What can we do? So in the end, this much is this text area. Everything, the rest of the code is the code for this thing right here. Which, if I'm being honest, do we really need it? Since we're not supporting it, I'm removing it. But if you support things like images, navigation, files, then feel free to retain them. We don't support that yet, which is why I'm going to remove it. We'll only have a simple text editor. Probably needs to be a number /text area. What's up here? Oh, okay. And then div. What's up here? Div has no corresponding closing tab. Well, there you go. Cool. Looks pretty decent. Let's go back here and refresh. Oh, I haven't used the text editor. Wow, that looks pretty bad. It's okay. Let's see. W full. Let's remove all the dark overrides to begin with. Okay, much better. Not much better, but like getting there. Yeah, let's remove everything. Okay. Write an article, publish post. This is a text area. W dash full. Okay, there we go. Remove all the dark overrides. All right. Okie dokie. The only problem here is it should be inside, so its width is limited. Oh, oopsie daisy. Yeah, it shouldn't be here. It should be here. All right, that looks okay-ish. Let me remove the padding. Py can stay. Px is what we need to remove. And there's more px somewhere. There is some horizontal padding somewhere. This also needs a border. So let me do a border. Okay, border looks decent. And the input box has px3. There we go. Alrighty, looks decent-ish. There's an outline which I don't like, which you should get rid of. Should be fairly simple to set outline to none. Yeah, figure that out. Shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. There's also need of some padding here. So let me add text area pl-2. Alright, looks decent. Yeah, the outline here is the only bad thing now. So there's a border here. A border here. We don't need a border here. So let me remove. This border right here. Alright, and when published post should have some pt-2 4. Margin, there you go. Alright, this is how you can publish a post now. Again, should you do this? No, you should probably have a better component specifically for this part, right? You don't want You need a rich text editor experience, not something so ugly, but yeah, works for now. All right. What else do we need? Firstly, there's some PT somewhere. PT dash or empty. There's some top margin that's causing this outline to not appear here. Let's see. PY dash 2. There you go. All right. Let's make it MY dash 2. All right. Didn't change anything. The border, where is it? All right. Cool. I should definitely get rid of this outline. It looks really ugly. Outline, tailwind, focus, outline, focus, outline none. That's probably what we need. So I see an outline. Let me go back to the text area. Focus, outline none, and then there you go, goes away. You can now start to write your complicated blog posts, and once you finish, click on publish post, add a title to it. The only thing that's left is this should actually publish it, so that's straightforward. On click equal to axios.post or get whatever. In our case, it will be what will it be? It will be a post to the backend URL /API/v1/blog with the body, which is going to be the title and the description. Oopsie daisy, we have them in the text editor. This button should be outside. Yeah, this button should be somewhere here, and we need the title and description state variables. And use set title over where? Over here on change equal to e set title e.target.value, and then on the text editor also on change equal to e set description as the same thing, and again text editor now needs to accept on change as an input, and e needs to be whatever this guy returns, which will probably be an event. What was it again? Let's see, we'll be able to figure it out. Let's make this something random, and then let's pass the on change here, and this will begin to complain, and then we'll get the change event of HTML text area element is the right type. Change event, oh seriously, change event, there we go. All right. Yeah, that looks right. We're able to update both the state variables, title and description. We have the app bar followed by a div that centers, it makes sure that the width is only this much and not the full width. A div that makes sure, this one makes sure the width is just as much. This one makes sure that this inner child is in the center of the screen and not on the left. So centrally aligns a small div, then has an input box which sets the title, then has a text area which sets the description, and then has a button that actually sends the request. Let's await this, and then const response equal to this, and I think we get back a response.id, so we can navigate to /blog/response.id, and we need to make sure, sorry, response.data.id, we need to make sure navigate comes from the right place. So const use navigate, which comes from React router DOM. Alright, looks decent. Cool. This is done. Let's see if it works. This is a new blog post by Harkirat, and let me just add a bunch of text here. Let me try publishing the post, and moment of truth, it did not work. Of course, won't work the first time. 403. Can you guess what the issue is? I need to send in the headers as well, specifically the authorization header, which needs to be local storage dot get item token. Alright, let's try that one more time, and this time I get back a 411, which means the payload is incorrect. Title and description. The second thing doesn't need to be description, it needs to be the content. So let me change that, and let's try that one more time. Publish post 204, but we wait for this one. This is the real one, and there you go. It reaches the blog number 7, and this is the new blog post by Harkirat. If I go back to the original screen, I see this new blog post by Harkirat. It is a 5-minute read. What are the things that are pending? Number 1, the skeleton. This loading is ugly AF. So let me implement a simple solution. The real solution is skeletons, which are not too difficult to add. So skeletons in Tailwind. You can, create skeletons like these by using this code. So let me quickly create a skeleton component. Skeleton blog skeleton.tsx, and then export const blog skeleton equal to this is the blog skeleton, and we need to put this where in blogs.tsx. Whenever there is a user that's loading, we rather show a bunch of blog skeletons rather than showing loading. So now if I refresh this original page, you will see I see very ugly skeletons. We'll see how to fix them. The first thing is remove all the dark overrides. If you're curious why removing the dark overrides helps, is because my machine is in dark mode right now. If I go to my Mac, settings, system preferences, somewhere here I've set dark mode, and so Tailwind thinks I'm in dark mode and it sets all the black things here, but I've not completely throughout my app added dark mode everywhere, which is why I see some dark mode and some not, which is this is bad. And yeah, that's why removing it sort of works. Now we need a skeleton for this, which has like a round skeleton and then some text skeleton, then some text skeleton, big text, and then small text. So we need to change our skeleton a bit. We need the first one, basically need to copy this. So there needs to be a div, which I can basically go to blog.tsx, the blog component, blog card component, and get the structure of it from here, and then add things the right way. So some padding, all that jazz. Avatar, we need one skeleton here instead of the avatar, which probably is a simple div. Rounded, height 4, width 4, and then instead of the author name I need some skeleton that looks something like this one, and then another one for the date, I guess. So these 3, and then circle, I can just have a circle, which basically means I need to export this. You can also have like a circular skeleton here. Then I need another skeleton over here, and then another skeleton in the title, and another skeleton here, another one here. So I kept the structure of my app pretty similar, but replaced the real texts with a bunch of skeletons, so that the final result looks something like this. I need to centrally align it, so let me do that next. Let's see. Let's go to blog.tsx. Blog. I need to very similar to how are all the blogs centrally aligned over here. Let's see. Why is that happening? Is it this? Probably is this. Yeah, it is this. So let's do that. And now if I refresh, flex justify center needs to be a div inside. Alright, let's see. There we go. Sort of decent. Few things to fix. Number one, let's add app bar very similar to this component here so that you always see the app bar. Alright, so app bar loaders are there, but they're a little to the right. Why would that be? Let's see. There's probably a lot of left padding somewhere. Padding bottom PL. I see a bunch of left padding now. Let's see. P4 cursor pointer. Width bottom. This one will be slightly hard to figure out, but let's see. Let's just first of all always render the skeletons so I can debug this. And then let's open this up and see what's happening. Oh, okay. Full width, and then this div has a really small width. Why? Interesting. Max width 24 rem. Where does this come from? There we go. Let's remove that, and we have some decently looking skeletons now. Let me go back here. Let me remove the if loading thingy, and if I refresh, I see skeletons followed by seeing the actual blocks, which is pretty decent. Let me increase the number of skeletons. So this is how, when the backend is actually responding, you can get back skeletons. And similarly, once you open the blog post, you shouldn't see loading ... You should see you create another skeleton for a structure that looks something like this. I'm hoping it's very simple to add, so I'm not adding it. The other thing you can do is you can full blog.tsx. Where was the loading component? Here. The other thing you can do is add a spinner, which is a slightly dumber thing to do, but you can do that as well. So class name equal to h-screen flex-call justify-center, which means put, let's say, loading in the center of the screen. As you can see, it's vertically centered, and then you can of course horizontally center it as well. Flex justify center. There you go, it's right here, and then replace it with a spinner. So spinner in Tailwind, which is again something you can yoink from here. Ideally, you should put this in a separate component. So let me do that. Spinner.tsx export const spinner equal to class name and class name spinner. There we go. If I now refresh, I see a spinner at the center of my screen before the actual block comes. Of course, you probably don't want the spinner. Also, you can have an app bar here. Yeah, there you go. So that by default there you go. Oh, oopsie daisy. Div app bar followed by the other div. Alright, if I refresh, now this is what I see. Slightly cleaner, but again, the skeletons are the cleanest bit. So what I would urge you to do is add skeletons on this page as well. A few other things I can suggest that you do is when you click on this becomes disabled. It shows you a loader that the blog is actually submitting. What else can you do? You can cache, as I said, if you use recoil here correctly, you can actually cache these blocks so that when you're opening a block and then reopening the blog and you don't see loaders, the data here gets sort of locally cached in your browser and you're not resending requests. Or if you're resending requests, at least you locally see the old code, and then eventually if there is new data that the backend gave, you see that here. But yeah, this is it. Let's try to deploy it. So that's as simple as first putting it on GitHub. Git status, ds store, git add dot wrangler.toml. Let me again remove all my secrets. So I wrote ga dot here. It might not work for you. You have to do a git add dot, git commit -m. Added more stuff, added fe, I guess, and then git push origin to head. What was the origin? Where were we pushing it again? This is where you can find the code if you want to look at my current oh shoot, I'm not good. I pushed it to the boilerplate, which is something. Oh no, I did not. I pushed it to the origin too. I don't know why. Thankfully I pushed it to the right place, which is this repository right here. So you can go to Analytics Devs cohort 2/repositories/week 13 offline, and you'll find it over here, the front end, the back end, the common code. If you want to deploy it on the internet, again, you can go down the AWS route, or you can just use something like Vercel, which lets you host things for free. Host things for free until you reach a point after which they charge you a lot. So let's go to Analytics Devs. Oh, my org isn't here. What can I do to make sure it deploys? I need to import another org. All repositories should be fine. Install. Shoot, man. It's taking longer than expected. You guys get the idea. This is very easy to deploy on the internet. Let me push this to a local repository as well, and then it should be straightforward from there. github.com/hkirath. Open a new repository, call it blog public. Push it here. All right. And now if I go here and refresh, I should see it. If I go to Vercel, add new project, it should show me my freshly created blogging website, which I can import here and deploy. Ideally, you probably want this as an environment variable and not hard-coded, but works for now. If you want, you can convert this into an environment variable that you can inject from here as well. But either way, now if I open this, it says not found. Why is that? It's either deploying or the deployment failed. Let's see. Oh, I know what it is. Settings. Yeah. So you need to change the general settings and select React as the framework here. Why don't I see React here? Other works as well. Build command would be npm run build. Output directly would be dist, I think, npm run build. Shoot, some type errors. Let me quickly fix them. Size is missing. Size was optional, right? Size is optional. And then what's the other? Undefined is not assignable to blog. Use blog, or it does return undefined, doesn't it? If loading or not blog. There you go. npm run build. And it does work. It stores everything in dist. So let me first fix the type errors, and then git push origin head. Let me also push to the week 13 repository. And lastly, what's left? Oh, this was salification. So npm run build dist doesn't matter. The problem is the base root directory. There you go. It'll actually be front end. Save this. Save these as well. Have I? npm run build dist, and then yeah, that should be fine. Configure different from the current settings. So let me try redeploying. And let's see if it's any better. Okay, something new. Well, looks slightly better. Oh, makes sense. The sign up, the root route doesn't have anything, which, well, something you should change. Oh god, I should also need another. The framework, why does it? Oh, well, wheat makes a lot of sense. Wheat, I don't need this, I don't need this. Save, and then front end is all I need. Let's try to redeploy. So I have to select wheat as the framework, deployments, redeploy, and this should hopefully do it. Slash sign up. I see nothing. Oh god. Something so obvious I'm missing here. Let's see. Wheat React route not found. Oh, sorry, Vercel. Oh, there you go. There's no problem with Wheat, but the missing configuration for Vercel, which is added by default for existing templates for a single page application. The HTML files makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I need to add a Vercel.json in the root of the project. So Vercel.json. There you go. Wheat. Let's try this. Let's look at the deployment. Moment of truth. Oh, there we go. Sign up, Hakiyat, random at whatever random.com. Oh, sorry, that's my name. Sign up. You should add a loader here, give the user some feedback, all that jazz. I see all of my existing blogs. I can create a new blog, publish the blog, so on and so forth. And there we go. We have a on the internet deployed blogging application. The backend is also deployed, frontend is also deployed, will remain free for a really long time until Vercel becomes a pain in the butt, but yeah, it won't happen for a long time. So yeah, that's the easiest stack to start creating your applications in. Let me know if this was insightful. If I went too fast, I think I was just coding really quickly. Let me know if that was a little too fast, but other than that, I think try to code this yourself, make some variations. I've told you a few things to change. For example, adding a skeleton page over here, making the editor much better, caching all of these requests so you don't see loaders again and again if you're on the same front end and changing pages. And as I said, a logout option. I don't say logout option here. What else? The sign up page should redirect to the dashboard if the user is already logged in. If I click on sign up, it should show me a loader. It should show me right toast. This is a very bad alert. These are like a few things you can change. Very simple to do, I'm assuming, if all of this is done already. With that, let's end it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.